Okay, so I had more feedback from you about last week's segment on race in America and my idea of asset reparations than just about anything else I've done. Here are a few of your tweets to @SteveHiltonX. Lisa wrote, I think you are wrong when it comes to black reparations. I believe that government needs to remove the things that hold black people back, but not give reparations. But many of you were open to the argument, like J.H. Griffin, who tweeted, good analysis of wealth disproportionality by race in America. I'm not sure the best way to fix the problem, but I've pondered this situation all my life. And then Laurie, who said yes to asset reparation for past discrimination against the African Americans in this country. Trump, good start with injustice in jails. Good idea to give loans at reduced interest. Teach how to run businesses. Black kids in private schools to counter, I guess, past discrimination. It was pretty evenly balanced in the end, but there was one thing that an overwhelming number of you said, and that was that Charlie Kirk should have had more time to make his argument. So you see, I read all your comments, and I do take them seriously. Here he is, Charlie Kirk, back to finish his point. Charlie, the bit I think people were keen to hear more from you on was your argument about how President Trump actually already is doing a lot to help African Americans. Keep going with that
Thrilled
argument.
to be here, Steve. Absolutely, and you did a wonderful analysis last week talking about the last 50 and 60 years about how black Americans have not been doing as well as other groups in this country. And look, my argument was, and it remains, that President Trump has delivered amazing results the last 2 years. And if we're African Americans and all Americans, and if we're honest with ourselves, we need to look at, are things getting better? And if they're getting better, why? And President Trump has signed the historic tax cut bill, and included in that tax cut was something called opportunity zones, where billions of dollars are now coming to our urban communities and urban centers that are primarily focused on in African American communities. The lowest ever black unemployment rate, the lowest ever black poverty rate, the most ever African Americans employed in our economy ever. And look, is there a lot of work to do? Absolutely. But if things are getting better, then let's keep those trends going in the right direction. And in the State of the Union, President Trump talked about something, Steve, that you talked about in your book that I could not agree more, that school choice is an answer to a lot of our problems in this country, that we should have a voucher system, that parents should be allowed to get their kids out of bad schools into better schools, and that, honestly, a zip code should not determine a child's future.
And so looking ahead, just on that particular point and any others, I mean, it seems to me that while you're right that the president does talk about this from time to time, it doesn't feel like he's, really getting recognition for this as a real kind of central theme of what he's trying to do. It seems to me that, he needs to do more, both in substance, but also just really showing people what he's driving at. And so I just would love to hear your thoughts on
Sure.
You've made the point that he's already done a lot, but what about the future?
Yeah, and so look, this week, President Trump is hosting a big event for Black History Month on Thursday, where I believe he's going to recap a lot of these successes, but also paint a vision of what he wants to do the remainder of his term and if reelected in the second term. And Steve, what's really interesting here is we need to rebuild the family in America, the family unit. And one part of one of the reasons why the African American community has fallen behind is the rise in single motherhood rates since the passage of the Great Society Act under Lyndon Baines Johnson. The single motherhood rate in the 1960s was around 20%. Now it's upwards of 70% in certain urban areas. Because we, unfortunately, through government programs, because we want to help people, the intention was to help. In reality, we hurt certain communities. And so I think if President Trump continues to lay out a vision for all Americans, but specifically African Americans, around the idea of opportunity, entrepreneurship, and risk-taking, that's something I think you put forth really well, Steve, is that it shouldn't just be about giving more stuff away, but how do we reduce barriers, reduce regulation, expand opportunity for people that want to take risks and make their lives better? Because we have tried. We've spent trillions of dollars in the urban areas through financial assistance and social welfare programs, and that has not made the African American community richer at all. It's opportunity, risk-taking, entrepreneurship that will get us there.
There you go. Look, I can see why they wanted you back, Charlie. Thank you so much. Really well said. Really appreciate it. And see you soon.
Thank you.